Oh, I think it's working again. Can it resume, or is it dead? So, is it the same stream, or is it a new stream? I actually don't know. OBS threw a fit. If you reloaded, it's probably the same stream. If you left and came back, it's probably new. Okay, it's new. Let me rename this. So we'll change the name to OBS crashed finish up. I can't even get the other two cameras working. OBS threw a fit. Okay, mental note. Do not press the mute button in OBS, because when you unmute, the audio does not come back. Oops. When I went to blow my nose, people tell me it's rude to blow my nose on camera, so I moved off camera and used the let me set the high priority for OBS. I have one Firefox window open. One. Why are there 6 instances of Firefox running? Somebody explain that.
Crypto.com Visa card, a metal card, powered by crypto. Card, powered.
There we go. None! One tab, just the opening window. I have no idea why it felt the need to run 6 processes taking 20 gigabytes of RAM. What the hell? Wanker. See what else I can close in here. I don't need Steam running in the background. And everything else should be okay. Yeah, everything else is okay. Oh, very annoying. That was no tabs. That was a fresh open. Let's do that again. See if it does it again. Opening Firefox. 1, 2, 3, 4. So all I did was open Firefox to the default page that's always on. And it's running just this default page, and it's running 4 processes. Why? And this one here is already taking 226 megabytes of RAM. Now this one's at 217. So I'm already using half a gig of RAM just fucking sitting here on the start page. It's like, don't be such a pig. Oh, then something crashed then. Okay. So it did successfully unmute. Matter of fact, when I'm ready to end this stream, we're going to test it again. This way, if it fails, it's okay. We're done. Any of these cams come back? Nope. Those are dead. A half a gig? There's just no reason for it. Fighting tiger pictures. Let's see. I did see a question. Paul Steele asked about building out the storage containers. Right now, I'm not. They're just storage containers right now. I don't have the finances, the means, or the ability to do a whole lot with them. I mean, like I said, when I got them, it's going to be a year or two before I even touch them. My first objective is to get a door into the first container, so that I don't have to open up the end of the container to get into the container. My second objective, which I actually do have the parts for, is to establish solar power out in the container, just enough for lighting, so that I can see what I'm doing in there. The next objective, it's going to be more difficult. And because they're full... yes, it is. Please don't use the name of the program. I'm not supposed to discuss that with people. So let's just call it the review program. But yes, I should be getting that Sony Bravia OLED $4,000 stupid expensive TV tomorrow. But my next objective is I need to move the containers. The containers are currently set up like this. So you have container 1, container 2, and container 3. Okay? They're causing me a pretty nasty problem because I'm going to use 2 containers because I can't hold 3. The problem is the containers are set up like this, but the containers are squared to the house, and the house is not squared to the property. The house, I actually like it like this. The house is at an angle like this. So the containers converge on my property line. So the distance from my property line to the container gets smaller as the containers move out. And I need this space here to be larger. Because one of the advantages of having a larger property is I can drive a vehicle out back and turn around. The problem is because the containers and the property line converge, the space here is too small. So what I need to do is offset the containers. I need to take this container number 2 and put it 10 feet this way, and then take this container and put it 20 feet this way, so that the containers are set up like this, so that they square up with the property line better. So that I have a more even distance between the containers and the property line, so that I can drive back here and turn around. Because my property is this big, but my house is shifted all the way over toward this end of the property. So I got all this dead space over here that I can't really drive through. And the problem is, the containers have 10,000 pounds worth of stuff in them. And I do not want to empty them. Because that would suck. It's not a huge deal, it's just annoying. So, yeah, really, nice design. So, I gotta find someone with equipment heavy duty enough to drag something that weighs 10,000 pounds without wheels. Kind of like the Suez Canal. Hey, Edge of Tech. Normally, there's guys around here with a big enough pickup truck they can just drag the container. But that's only when it's empty. When the container's full of stuff, I don't even care about stuff falling over. When it's full of stuff, it's producing too much force against the ground. And most of them don't think they can move it full of stuff. So... well, again, bringing in heavy equipment costs money. Costs a lot of money. If you have to bring in a crane or a big heavy-duty dozer, like a D7, somebody has a D7, that'll do it. But can you afford to rent one? You're talking a couple $1,000s. I don't have it. So I'm trying to figure that out. A semi-tow truck, yep, might be able to, especially if you can lift it up a tiny bit to reduce that contact patch with the ground. But again, I do need to be careful because I would like to not knock everything over that's inside of it. If I do make the switch to the mini split, the larger mini split, if that goes through okay, I won't need the pellets as much anymore, so I can sell a lot of the pellets. I can sell half the pellets because the other half will last me 5 years at the rate that I would need to use them. And that would make it a lot lighter. That would take 4,000 pounds off of the container. So I want to put a door into the first container, but I don't want to put a hole into the other containers until I get them moved, because obviously the holes are going to shift once you move the containers 10 feet. And unless I put a man-size hole, then when it shifts, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make the holes bigger. So I might be able to do that, put a man-size hole in there. I still got to figure out how to do that. Do I just grind away with grinding wheels? Or do I invest the money into a plasma cutter? For cutting a door, grinding wheels. For cutting the holes in the containers, at that point, I might actually use enough grinding wheels to pay for a plasma cutter. So, and I can't afford either at that point. So I gotta weigh my options, see what I can figure out. Yeah, I don't think so, but that'd be fun to watch. But my priorities right now is get a doorway into the damn thing so that not only can I get in and out of the container easier and actually start using some of the space. Are you having fun? Do you enjoy playing inside that box? One of the enders inside the focus box. I hear him clawing at the corner of the box inside. Not doorways, archways, openings. Meaning I'm just going to open up the inside. And then use expanding foam to seal this gap in between them so rain doesn't come in. Basically, I want to make it a bigger space. Ultimately, I'd like to have 2 15-foot openings inside there, so it's almost a complete open space, but leave enough of the wall intact so I don't have to worry about droop. I wanted to add more space behind, keep structural integrity. I needed more space here at the house. It's only a 1,500 square foot house. Not even. So, I wanted to add a second mobile home out back because they're very cheap. I can get a beat up mobile home for, $2,000 that's gutted. And that's all I need. I'm going to gut it anyway. And I'm not allowed to. Zoning doesn't allow it. Because they're idiots. So instead I got 3 giant 40-foot metal boxes. and I put them next to each other. The idea is to, right now they're just storage. One contains rocketry and stuff. One contains pellets, spare tires, and tools. And the other one contains all my 3D printing and kitchen stuff. Exactly. I could maybe theoretically eventually, when I had the money, run a separate, 200 amp circuit to that second house so that I'd have enough power to actually run a print farm. And I was even thinking about building a breezeway between them so I could walk right from one house to the other. And, you got it, Edge of Tech. See you later. We're going to be ending soon anyway. It's almost 4 o'clock and I got to get out of here. But I wanted to finish off without just that abrupt when I killed that last stream. Well, no, I don't want to sell the shipping containers. Actually, I want to add a fourth one. What I would like to do eventually is to have, think of each row as a shipping container. So first container, second container, and then what I want is to have a third. This is my third container. I then want to take a fourth container 15 feet away from the third container and then put a roof over top of that opening in between the two containers so that I have a sun-safe place to park the bus. Put asphalt millings down so the tires are protected and have a sun-safe place, a place that's relatively shaded from the sun to park the bus so it doesn't, get destroyed sitting out in the sun. And, droid parts! See you later, DeWitt. Thank you for joining in. I appreciate it. Another review got rejected. It's a simple review of a pack of bungee cords. These people are not using any rhyme or reason to reject these reviews. There's no rhyme or... There's not even any pictures attached to that one. Yes, there's 2 pictures of bungee cords. Makes no sense. I want to find out who's doing it and just punch them in the face. Well, that depends on where you live. Here, the containers are very expensive. They're over $3,000 a piece, about $3,500 each. Back in New Jersey, about $1,700. So, kind of wish I could get that price. But it's basically it's 333 square feet of rigid, structurally sound, weatherproof space. So it's already got a floor. Metal ceilings are great because you put magnets to attach everything. And no, because I'm in the program, I get to resubmit the review, which a normal user would not be allowed to do. The problem is it's annoying because it forces me to save the text of every single review I submit so that I could resubmit the review. And so it's a royal pain in the ass. Well, the review gets denied. Now, not denied by the program, denied by Amazon, which is a separate part of the company. They don't interact. Matter of fact, you call normal Amazon support and tell them, hey, I'm a you-know-what member. They're not going to have any idea what you're talking about half the time. So it says here, thank you for submitting a customer review on Amazon. After carefully reviewing your submission, bullshit, your review could not be posted to the website. While we appreciate your time and comments, reviews must adhere to the following guidelines. Amazon Community Guidelines. So, here's my review. A picture of the pack of bungee cords. A picture of the end of the bungee cord so you can see a detail shot of the hooks. And then my review is, I use these to hang reefs from my front door. I have 2 4-point bungee mount there. I have to 4-point bungee mount them as the winds are harsh here. If I normal mount a reef, it will rip it apart, or the reef will end up 2 miles down the road. These are fantastic. I prefer the white ones, but the black ones will work just fine, because the ones I got were black. I attach a bungee cord to each mount, and attach it to the reef, and it suspends the reef between the tension of the bungee cords, which allows me to put a reef on my door without the 50-mile-an-hour winds tearing the reef off. That's my review. Now, please, by all means, explain to me what part of the Amazon Community Guidelines that violates. What's another one that got rejected? Here we go. Let's see. This is one of those unknown things that you use the first time, then can't live without. You can go decades never using one. Then you use one and think, how in the world did I get through life without this? I am not entirely sure how it works. It seems like sort of a crock-pot kind of deal, but whatever it does, it's magical. Once I figured out the timing and the quantity of water needed, I press the button and I come back in 30 minutes and I have perfect fluffy rice every single time. I don't know how I ever managed to live without this thing now that I have one. That's my review. Tell me what part of that violates Amazon guidelines. And here we go. Cats love this stuff. So much so, they started to chew into the bag. I heard some crinkling, got suspicious. Yep, cat was up on the table tearing a hole in the bag. Chased the little booger off and put it up high where they can't reach it. I guess they really like it. Gobbled it up without hesitation, even the picky one. In fact, the picky one was the one tearing a hole in the bag. Even he likes it, and he's picky about what he'll eat. So, while I can't taste this food, my cats sure can, and they seem to like it. That's my fucking review. What part of that violates community guidelines? It doesn't. No part of that violates community guidelines. They're just being idiots for some reason. I don't think a person reviews every review. I'm not going to change my review. I'm not going to change a single word in that review. I'm going to resubmit it as it is again, and it'll eventually get approved. I don't play that SJWPC bullshit. I think it's an automated system that looks for, and that's probably what's causing me problems. It's an automated algorithm. An algorithm is seeing something I'm doing that is not a violation of the community guidelines, but that the algorithm has determined is usually a fraudulent review. That's being triggered. And I don't know if a person ever actually looks at it. No, because we've never had that. We would notice that. I'm in a couple of private groups regarding that. I don't care if they're drug references. That's your fucking problem. I'm not changing my review because you think that could be a drug reference. Your fucking food came in a fucking bag. And my fucking fluffy cats are fluffy. So it's some kind of something I'm doing is causing a trigger in the algorithm that's causing it to be denied. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know how. The system should automatically flag our reviews to be less scrutinized for that kind of crap because we are contractually obligated to submit the review. So who knows? I get reviews that are rejected for it's literally no reason at all. And the problem is you can't appeal to anybody. You can't talk to anybody and find out why. There's it's just I do so many of them, it's burdensome to retain a copy of the text of every single review. I mean, you should see the size of my review folder on my computer. It is my review folder is 279 gigabytes and contains 5,000 files in 421 folders. It's a lot of work. And so what I have to do when this starts happening, when I start getting mass rejections like this, I have to go back to saving a text file for each individual product that contains my review, because when they tell you your review is rejected, you lose it. It's gone. You can't copy and paste it anymore. And I have to save the data so that I can just post it again, because I will not change my review. I will not alter a picture. I will not alter a single word. If you tell me it's because I said I prefer the white ones over the black ones, I'm going to refuse to change those words in spite of you. Because I don't play that SJW PC bullshit. But that's not what caused it. It's something in the algorithm, something I capitalized, a key set of words I used, something. Eat them. That's the solution. Eat them. I've had 2-line reviews get rejected. Literally, 2 sentences. I devolved the review down to almost nothing, and it still rejected it. Do you want me to not leave a review? If you want me to not leave a review, fine. Remove it from my review list so I'm no longer contractually obligated to leave a review. And I'm afraid to complain to program support about it because that's a separate department from community guidelines, and community guidelines doesn't even realize what I'm doing. And I'm afraid if I draw too much attention, if I become the squeaky wheel, they might deem me not worthy and just throw me out of the program just to make me go away. Yeah, reject that from my tummy. This is all crap that I got off the review site. This is all stuff that I got. Everything you see on this shelf behind me here, that's all stuff the cats tore down. I had a tapestry covering this and the cats tore it down. I got to figure out a different way of mounting the tapestry because they climb on the shelves behind it and then they paw at it until they tear it down. Boy, you retracted that so fast I never even saw what it said. Do you keep what? Do I keep what? Yes, I do. The stuff is mine. It's my property. I gain full legal ownership after 6 months. So for the first 6 months, I'm not allowed to sell or give away. Ooh, I love when Ivan uploads something. He's great. If you guys aren't subscribed to Ivan Miranda, go subscribe to Ivan Miranda. He's great. Twix a Raider? What's that? What's Twix a Raider? I know. Twix is a chocolate, caramel, chocolate, and crispy, crisp thing bar. So you're telling me Twix used to be called Raider? I didn't know that. Cool. I'm looking down here because I'm using the phone to read your chat. I did not want you to do that. Do as you are told. Or else. Hey, we got another PayPal. Screw the algorithm. $13.02. You rock, dude. Thank you. Any comments on the new Printer Pro? What Printer Pro? They have a new Artist D. Is there an Artist D Pro? Because I would very much like to get that. I love my Artist D. That's, even though I haven't been using it, that's why it's still sitting here, because I love that printer. I hate when you do that. What's the differences? Three-year warranty? That's impressive. Not a huge amount of difference. So touchscreen instead of LCD display and rotating panel, optical instead of mechanical switches, Meanwell instead of regular power supply, and the 2209 by 6 versus 4988 2208 combo pair. So the typical Pro changes, you know, just better quality components. It's otherwise the same printer. Looks like it's using standard MKS Robin touch UI, nothing special there. Still not a fan of the ribbon cables, especially the way they're using them. But man, it's nice when they use linear rails. They use the proper connections for them, though. Welcome, Intensive Raids. So not a huge difference, more quality of life differences, but basically the same printer. Good machine, though. I love my Artist D. It's a calibration-free IDEX printer, which is pretty impressive. Well, the pandemic kind of, you know, messed with things most likely. Hopefully he'll get back on his feet because I like PrinterBot. Nice to meet you too, Intensive Raids. We like our victims happy. Well, normally with a IDEX printer, any kind of dual head printer, there's actually a pretty extensive amount of calibration involved. Because think about it. You have your print surface and you have your nozzle. And you need to calibrate that nozzle to that print surface. Well, now you have two. And if one is sticking down a little further than the other, you have an issue, don't you? And even if you got them close enough to not cause collision problems, if they're off by a little bit, you've got to calibrate them so that the two colors print properly together and so that one part isn't dragging when the other part is printing. Now, some of the parts of the Artist D are proprietary. They're not normal standard parts. But because they had so much control over the parts and were able to make them precisely, it comes pre-calibrated. All that calibration you normally have to do with a dual head printer and offsets and stuff like that, you don't have to do with this. That's pretty impressive. It works out of the box. So I was willing to give them a pass on the proprietary nature because of the lack of a need for calibration, which is pretty impressive. Trying to set up a way of mounting this phone on something. And I've got nothing to balance it on. I guess I could balance it out here like that. Yeah, that works. So it's a two-color independent head printer that is very, very user-friendly, assuming the quality control is maintained. And I haven't heard any grumbling, so I'm guessing they're maintaining the quality control. Because basically it works out of the box. You don't even have to do anything in your slicer. You just tell it print head 1, print head 2. You don't even need start scripts, end scripts, or tool changer scripts. When you tell it to change from print head 1 to print head 2, it internally executes its own script to clean off and park head 2 and bring out head 1, clean off and park head 2, do the retract and flush. It does that all on its own with purge buckets, which is something you would normally have to program in your slicer. But because it's built in, you don't have to. IDEX is built in. We're talking about the Artist D. So it's from JG Maker. So do a search for JG Maker Artist D. Let me see if I can get you a link. I don't know if they're on Amazon or not. So when you want to do, for example, a mirroring print, all you have to do is load your STL file and just make sure your STL file is on the left half of the bed in your virtual slicer. And then you simply tell the printer, mirror it for me. And it just does it. You want to do duplication, same thing. Make sure your part's on the left side and simply tell the printer, switch to duplication mode. And it just does it. It comes out, it calibrates itself, it puts the heads in the right position, and then your simple, straightforward G code results in a duplication print. I doubt it. It's probably PTFE lined. Oh. It is available on Amazon. Nice. Excuse me, cat. And you can get it for as low as $600 too. Okay, the Artist D is $600 and the Artist D Pro is $599. $729. Yeah, I'm making one right now. Come on. Come on. Unable to generate link. Really? There it is. Alrighty. amzn.to/amzn./3RHDKAB. That looks good. There you go. There's your link to both of them. That is the Artist D for $600 and the Artist D Pro for $729. It is CR10 size, so it's a 334, almost a 334. It's a 300 by 300 by 340. It is almost completely assembled. Very little assembly you have to do. And it's badass. It's a good freaking printer. If you want to dabble with two-color printing, and you're not going to find an IDEX printer any cheaper than that. Remember, the advantage of IDEX that's correct, because it's not being shipped from or sold by Amazon. It's being shipped from the company and sold by the company. So the only things that are shipped from Amazon would have the free returns. So this does not have that distinct advantage that an Amazon Prime item would have. Meaning you'd have to wait until a US seller decides to sell this on Amazon. Ooh. But yeah, the advantage of IDEX is that the two heads are independent, which allows you to do things like duplication, mirroring, that you normally can't do on a printer. I don't know, honestly. I mean, you theoretically you can return it and pay the shipping, but in reality you can't, because it would cost you several $100s to ship something like that big to China. Yeah, a little bit. I didn't eat breakfast this morning or anything because I didn't want to be eating on the stream. People really don't like that. So I made sure not to be eating for the stream, and I didn't get up early enough to eat first. But yeah, that would be no different than buying it from the Chinese source. You might have some protections from Amazon if you had a dispute. Unlikely though, since it's sold by and shipped from the company. But yeah, there's no practical means for you to ship something back to China. Shipping a box that big back to China would be several $100s. But I need something cold and metal. Put against my head, cool it off a little bit. I can feel the heat. But good machine. JG Maker, decent company. They will support you. They're not going to abandon you. I mean, they can't just say, here's your money back, keep the printer. That's not the way it works. I mean, you got to work with them if you have an issue. You know, they'll send you whatever parts you need as long as you can diagnose it. But you just got to work with them. But you're getting, you know, you're getting a $7,000 or $8,000 machine for $700. If a U.S. company were to make one of these machines, it'd be thousands of dollars. I'm also looking forward to seeing what Lulzbot is coming out with. Apparently, they're coming out with, I'm going to call it assembled in the USA, because I'm assuming some of the parts are made in China. But, most printers, you don't have to upgrade at all. Hey guys, how many printers do I have? Approximately, how many printers do I have? 160? 165, something like that. I got over 150 printers. Do you know how many I've upgraded the firmware on? 0. I have never once upgraded the firmware on a printer. Not one time. I think I may have done it once, maybe because somebody asked me to. They restarted the reorganization. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I don't know if the firmware is accessible or not. I want to say it is, but I don't know for sure because it'd be easy for you to enable it. I honestly don't know if all the safety protocols are enabled or not. I never checked. It's one of the reasons I do my printing on stainless steel tables. So if something were to ever happen, nothing would go bad. It would just burn the printer. But who else makes? There's one other person who made a low-cost IDEX printer. I think it was a converted CR10, I think. It was one other company that made a IDEX printer, but they're not common. They're not super common. But, you know, but I've never upgraded the firmware on a printer. I've just never felt the need to. The printer oh yeah, there is one printer I upgraded the firmware on. The print mill. The CR30 print mill. I upgraded the firmware on that. There was definite, it was a beta product, so there's definite features to be added. But otherwise, all my other printers, I've never upgraded the firmware on them, ever. I've never changed the hot end, except for when, it was just totally bad. I've never been required to change the feeder until after it's broken. Most of the upgrades that you make for printers are not necessary. The printers work fine without the upgrades. The upgrades are more because, well, we like tinkering, and some of them are convenience of life upgrades, meaning it just makes it more convenient. It doesn't actually improve anything. We do X40, huh? I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna check that out. We do X40 IDEX. Definitely want to check that out. Maybe I can convince him to send me one. Cool. Well, they're coming out with a, they say made in America. I'm going to say assembled in America for now. 3D printer that's bigger than an Ender 3. And it's $750. Now, that's still a lot of money for a 3D printer, but $750 for an American-made 3D printer? That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I'm trying to figure out a way to convince them to send me one. Because I'd really like to have an American-made printer. Actually, I do have an American-made printer. I have the I have that Cupcake and I have the Printer Bots, and I believe they're both American-made printers. I got to get that Cupcake going one of these days. I'd love to get that running. That's just such a funky-looking printer. Eventually, I want to build one of those Mendel printers, one of those original Mendel Max printers. Ah, the X40 uses Bowden tubes because the Artist D is direct drive. And I also found out that multi-process works in duplication mode. So you know how I print multiple objects using multiple processes? Print one part, move, print another part, move, print another part. That works in duplication mode. So if I can, for example, fit 3 of them in the build volume, then I can do 6 simultaneously. You know, first 2, second 2, third set of 2. Exactly, yeah. The Artist D is a little shorter on Z. So where is the sound coming from? Is it coming from this? Yes. Coming from that camera. Okay. So do you guys have any questions? If you want something that works and works and works, you buy an Ender 3 or an Ender 5 and you make a few very minor changes to it. That's how you get a printer that just works and works and works. You take an Ender 5, you put a metal feeder unit on it, about $9 on Amazon, and you put a Luke Hatfield's hot end fix on the hot end, if you don't want to mess with it anymore, and you put a piece of Wham Bam on the magnetic plate. You do that, and you'll have a printer that will just go and go and go and go and go and go. It'll never stop. I mean, sure, all printers will eventually have a failure. A board will burn out, a power supply will burn out, a stepper motor will burn out. That happens. You replace the part and you keep going. But you buy something, what you want is a simple printer. You want something like an Ender 3 or an Ender 5. What makes those printers work so well is that the company is large enough that their quality control is high enough that you're going to get decent quality components. And then that aluminum extrusion open framework combined with a simple Bowden setup means a printer that just is bulletproof. It's just never going to fail. Until a component fails, and that happens. But it's bulletproof. It's going to just keep going and going and going. It's so simple that there's just not much to go wrong. The FlashForge makes fantastic printers, but God help you when it comes to do maintenance because they're in an enclosure, so they're a pain in the butt to work on. Very good machines. My FlashForge Guider 2 is one of my all-time favorite printers. That thing's a monster. Lotmax SC10, it's an Ender 3. It's the same thing. My favorite suggestion is an Ender 5. That box framework is so rigid and so self-aligning that you're pretty much never going to have an issue. In fact, there's only one thing Creality can do to truly improve the Ender 5. Dual Z. Put a Dual Z on the Ender 5 and you'll have a bulletproof, perfect beginner's printer, an advanced printer, an additional printer that will just go and go and go and go. Well, that's the nice thing about the Ender 5 is you can mostly enclose it. You can put screening on the 4 faces of that printer without a problem. You just can't go quite all the way to the top because you have that moving carriage on the top, but you can go almost all the way to the top. So the only part of the printer that'll be open is the top. And you can basically enclose that for pet protection for next to nothing. You know, just get some chicken wire, some window screening, and just done. Yep. Ender 6 has also got an enclosure. So does the Ender 200, the CR200. The one I did a couple weeks ago. Also a very nice printer, but costs a lot more. You know, the Ender 3 is $200. The Ender 5 is $350. Matter of fact, if you go, I have a link down below for Comgrowl. It's a company that has, you know, storage here in the U.S., Chinese company, but they sell refurbished printers, and you can get a pretty significant discount if they happen to have a refurb of the one you're looking for. Ender 5 Plus, I would not classify as reliable like the Ender 5 because it uses that goddamn BL Touch. If they get rid of the BL Touch and just make that a normal leveling printer, then the Ender 5 Plus would be right there with it as far as reliability and simplicity and bulletproofness. But as far as the Dual Z, that's why you use a flex plate. Now, the flexible one that comes with the printer is garbage. You replace that with a steel plate. You can leave the magnet that's already on there. It's good enough. Put it this way. I have an Ender 5 with a 0.8 millimeter nozzle, and I have an Ender 5 with a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. And I would not hesitate to walk out into that container, pick one of those printers up, plop it on the table, and hit print. And it will work every time. It's just a reliable machine. It's just there's just not much there to go wrong. Because it's a pain in the ass. The BL Touch, you have to depend on the software and the hardware working correctly for it to work. And when they don't work, it's probably not difficult to fix so much as I don't know how to fix. When this bed isn't level, I know exactly what to do. I see which side is high and I turn the knob. Problem fixed. With the BL Touch, you can't adjust the bed. You have to fix whatever's wrong with the software or the hardware. My favorite printer that I've ever owned is the Ender 2. Probably not. FlashForge is a good company. I have no doubt FlashForge would support you. I got nothing but good vibes from FlashForge. I don't know if you guys saw it. That's the kitty cat thing I printed last week. That I printed on the Artillery Hornet. That's gonna go on top of my new TV. But the support probably won't be a problem. Woo! $2,000. Ouch. That's a bit pricey. But yeah, that's why the Matter of fact, the only problem the Ender 3 has is it's a little too simple. And so frame manipulation, frame warping becomes a potential issue. Now, if you know what you're looking at, it's no big deal. You just straighten out the frame and you tighten everything up. The Ender 5 is what I suggest. Wait, what is this? Think 3D I am Kickstarter. I'll check it out. Well, Flash Forge are expensive printers. I actually have a Flash Forge Adventurer 3 out in the trailer that you guys haven't seen yet. I haven't even seen it. I haven't even taken it out of the box. I got it used refurb on eBay for $100, so I grabbed it. And it's not really the brackets that are the issue. It's the way the frame is designed to be minimalist. The Ender 3 was designed from the ground up to be as cheap as humanly possible without being garbage. You know, just keep a quality printer, but reduce the cost as much as possible. So the minimum amount of extrusions, the minimum amount of bolts, the minimum amount of connections. That's why the frame is an H instead of a cube, because the H is cheaper. It only takes 3 pieces of extrusion. But the Ender 5 is, first of all, comes mostly assembled. You're basically putting assemblies together. The top is assembled, the bottom is assembled, the Z-axis is assembled. All you're doing is taking 4 posts and bolting everything to it. So the assembly is very, very easy. And because of its cube structure, it's largely self-aligning. So any alignment issues remove themselves as you bolt it together. Well, if it has ABL, it doesn't need bed leveling knobs. If you look at the CR6 SE, it has no bed leveling knobs either. There's no springs, there's no screws, there's no way to adjust it. And you don't need to. Yeah, aluminum profiles were the game changer. Cheap aluminum profiles. Oh, nice. Cheap aluminum profiles were the fundamental game changer for 3D printing. That's what made the cheaper printers rigid enough to produce good results reliably. Now, you also still have to watch out for quality control. This is why I like Creality printers, because the company is so large now that they control their own manufacturing supply line, which means they control quality control, which is a big deal. You might think, okay, you know, a roller wheel is a roller wheel is a roller wheel. Yeah, buy an ANET printer and tell me that. Buy a Tron XY and tell me that. Okay? They use the cheapest components they can get, and you can tell. No, I have not. Buster Beagle. Buster Beagle injection molding. I'll have to check that out too. So when you like you think the the 25-cent parts that Creality uses, and now imagine the 5-cent parts that are available, the toss-offs and cast-offs and the failures that are then sold for pennies on the dollar. And these companies use those parts to make their printers to increase their profit margin. So the Tron XY X1 was a fine printer, it was a nice design, but you had to replace a lot of the components with higher quality components over time. For example, one of my favorite printers is my ANET E10. It's one of the only larger size printers that gives me near Ender 2 print quality. I had to do a lot of work to it. The bed is flexible as hell. You got to be careful because that stupid H bridge that they love using. The hot end is garbage. The hot end is so garbage. There's a gapping issue in the hot end where the filament expands or changes shape somewhere in the hot end. If you're going this way, it's fine, but you can't reverse. You can't pull the filament out of the hot end because the filament distorts at some point and jams when you try to pull it out because the machining was so bad. So instead of paying for the higher quality component to fix that problem, they included instructions on don't pull the filament out, just push new filament in. That was their fix, to tell you not to pull the filament out, push the new filament in. And but that's how they made their money, by using the cheaper parts. With Creality, you don't have that problem. How do you upgrade an A-net? You buy a Creality hot end and you put it on the A-net. There, you upgraded the A-net. And now I understand their newer stuff is a lot better quality. I'm talking the old days of A-net. You don't think A-net A8 days. From what I understand, their newer stuff is much, much better quality. Ouch. What did the power board mainboard die on? This kitty cat print is looking perfect. Like, I don't see a flaw on it. I can't really show you guys because the other cameras aren't working. A-net A6. Okay, never mind. I see it. You had an A-net A6. Yeah. Yeah, they just use horribly cheap components. If you get lucky, great. If you don't get lucky, see, A-net A8 was a right place, right time, right price product. When the A-net A8 came out, it revolutionized 3D printing because it gave tens of thousands of people access to something they could never have access to before. Remember, the A8 came out before companies like Creality came out. Wow. So A-net A8s did not sell well because they were good. They weren't. They were filthy pieces of shit. They were garbage. They were junk piles of parts. They were absolute wrecks of a machine. You would be a blasphemer if you called an A8 a 3D printer. Okay? It's garbage. What it was, though, was just enough garbage that you could make it work if you tried hard enough. And that meant people who did not have access to a 3D printer suddenly had access to a 3D printer. And because of that, it was worth the hassle of making that pile of garbage parts work. Because if you couldn't buy an A-net A8, your next option was a $5,000 MakerBot. So you had a choice: $200 for an A8 or $5,000 for a MakerBot. That's not a choice. You take the pile of garbage and you pray you can make it work, because that's the only way you're getting into 3D printers. Now, after that, cheaper printers started to come out once other companies realized there was a consumer market for 3D printers. Like, for example, that's when the Wanhao Duplicator i3 V2 came out and stuff like that. Well, most people that we're talking about didn't have the ability to source and build their own, and that's assuming you could source the parts. You know, things like stepper motors and stuff like that cost money back then. You know, you couldn't go on to Amazon and buy a stepper motor for 13 bucks. You know, 6 years ago, you couldn't do that. And what? The JG Maker Magic is a pretty good printer. At least in the experience I had with it was pretty good. 178 bucks for 2 of them? That might be worth doing for a giveaway or some shit. It'd still be expensive though for me, because the shipping to ship it out again would be expensive. But damn, maybe I can make a deal with them to pay it but not ship it, and then ship the 2 individual printers to 2 different people. Do like a giveaway or something like that. That might be worth it. Damn, 178 bucks for 2 is pretty slick. If you have a link to that, send that to me. And now, of course, once printers like the Wanhao came out, interest in the A8 died, because, you know, why buy a garbage pile of parts when you could buy a slightly nicer pile of parts that aren't quite garbage, that actually do work. Now, the first Wanhao, now back then, that's when tinkering in 3D printers really started. Thank you. That's when tinkering really got started, but that's back when the printers needed the tinkering. You needed to print the little cups for the springs to make the bed leveling more reliable. You needed to print the reinforcement kit for the to stiffen up the printer to make the frame less wobbly. That was when these upgrades actually functionally improved the printer, not just made the printer slightly better than the already good printer it was, but made a difficult to use printer an easy to use printer. Do you guys remember the Wanhao i3 days, or the Monoprice Maker days? Do you remember where you had to adjust the damn bed level every single print? Like literally, where did we learn to watch the first layer? On those early printers where we had to tweak those leveling knobs every single time we used the printer. Well, the glory days was when you printed a sufficient number of upgrades for the printer that it became rigid enough that you no longer had to re-level it every time you printed. It was amazing. Oh yeah, fan ducts. Oh yeah. It was amazing. That my Wanhao i3 V2, I have to fix it still. I burned out one of the components. But that printer got to the point where it was walk-away reliable, where I can go up that printer and go, tap, rotate, tap, start print. Okay, it's heating up, and I walk away, knowing it's going to print correctly. So that was an amazing time. So that's where we retained that Tinker print upgrades for the printer, because these modern printers really don't need them. Most of them are quality of life improvements. It's not that they don't have a parts cooling fan, it's that they're cheating. The JG Maker Magic, I believe, is one that doesn't have a parts cooling fan. It diverts half the air from the hot end fan down to act as parts cooling. So if you look inside that cage, if it's the one I'm thinking of, there's a diverter. So you have, oh, actually, I'll show you. So here's the cage that would be surrounding it, and there's your fan inside there. Well, inside, there'd be a diverter, a little piece of metal that would sit over half of the fan, so that half of the air was diverted down to act as parts cooling, and the other half would cool the hot end. The Ender 2 worked the same way. The Ender 2, what we did is when we replaced the mounting shroud for the hot end fan, all of a sudden our prints went to hell. And we were like, what happened? Why did my perfect prints suddenly go away? And that was because the Ender 2 depended on the open architecture of that simple hot end, so that all the excess air would end up blowing on your part and helping with parts cooling. And as soon as you put that restrictive shroud on there, you no longer got parts cooling air. So you had to add a parts cooler. It's to reduce cost. That's all. It's to reduce cost. You guys have to remember, these are Chinese companies. The profit margin for a Chinese company is very different than the profit margin for an American company. If I went to Lulzbot and said I could save you $2 if you got rid of the parts cooling fan, they'd look at me like I'm some sort of stupid moron. It's like we wouldn't gain anything by doing that. even if we sold 1,000 printers, we'd only gain $2,000. But when you are a company where $2 could double your profit, and the fan only costs you a nickel, now all of a sudden that difference in profit margin makes sense, because the economy of scale between an American company and a Chinese company are so different. What a Chinese company can accept as an acceptable profit margin, an American company cannot accept as an acceptable profit margin because it won't pay for anything. So here, if I were to save you a nickel on each printer, it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. But in China, saving a nickel on each printer really adds up fast, because a nickel goes a lot further in China than it does here. That's why you saw companies like ANET trying to make these printers that looked as good as an Ender 3 or a CR10, but with inferior parts, because they got those inferior parts for cheaper, which allowed them to either sell the printer at a cheaper price, undercutting the competition, or sell the printer at a similar price and increase the profit margin. Now, companies like Creality, JG Maker, Anycubic, stuff like that, they are now mature enough and they control their supply line enough that they don't have to make tiny little cuts like that to try to save money. They're now at the point where they've already reached bottom, and now they're saying, okay, we're at bottom, this is as cheap as we can go, now how much can we add without increasing the price? And that's what they're doing now, as you see these printers get better and better. And then, of course, once these companies have established this is how you do it, then the clones start to get better. Then the printers, not really clones, but just other companies making similar machines, they can learn from all the mistakes those first companies made and avoid some of them. If they're smart. That's largely what I do. I send these companies feedback on these printers to help them improve them. All right, guys, it's 5 o'clock. I'm going to skedaddle. It's getting late, and hey, I'm proud of myself. 5 hours of streaming, no politics, minimum wage, or any other bullshit. Just 3D printing. That makes me happy. Let's see. I want to give a shout out to those who supported me. Come on. So again, thank you to Nikolay Dmitriev. Screw the algorithm. $13.02. Oop, it was right there. And thank you to Ian Halligan, $56.21. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. You guys rock. And before we sign off, are we still streaming? Yeah, we're streaming. Okay. I'm gonna try to do the mute thing again and see if it comes back this time. So I am now muting and unmuted. Yeah, it came back. So I wonder why I lost the audio before. Huh. I have no idea what caused that. That was weird. That's right, Easter's coming up. I gotta put up my Easter wreath. I got a little rabbit Easter wreath to put up on the review site. But that's it. I will see you guys later. I'm going to try to see what I can do about getting a worth posting video put up this weekend. And then I will see you guys next week for another stream. You guys have a great day. And if you guys are interested in the politics minimum wage bullshit, we can maybe do a stream on my other channel on a different day. If you guys are interested in that, let me know how much interest there is in that. And if there's enough interest in it, 5 people are going to show up. There's no point. But if there's enough interest in that, we can try doing that. If you guys might be interested in that, we'll go from there. You guys have a great day, and I will see you all next week. Let me close this down properly, though, by bringing back up the streaming thing. I know you guys can still hear me. Yeah. Come on. I have OBS set to high priority so it doesn't stutter, which makes everything else run quite a bit slower. Go live. Alrighty. That's it. I got the page loading, so I will see you guys later. Keep your victims happy. Remember, the ETP protocol is always an option, and you guys have a great day.